Hi, I'm Tracey L. Fisher. Welcome to The Entry Point of View. I'm here with Michele Lawrence, and I'll allow her to introduce yourself. Thank you for coming on my show. Appreciate that.
It's such a pleasure, Tracy, and thank you for having me.
Oh, sure. You're welcome.
I'm Michele Lawrence, and I am running for the 2nd Congressional District. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today to get an opportunity to share with your audience who I am, and more importantly, why I'm running. So let's first start with the makeup of the district with these redrawn lines.
Okay.
For the second time since 2011. I am literally covering a district from 6th and Race. We cross over to Spring Garden and come up to Broad Street. Anything east of Broad Street belongs in the 2nd Congressional District. We then go all the way up to the northeast to the top of Bucks County. So that's the 2nd Congressional District. It includes North Philadelphia, it includes Frankfort, Richmond Port, Fishtown, Northern Liberties, and clear up into the northeast. So that is the new 2nd Congressional District that I'll be running for and leading. And the reason I'm leading and running for this particular office is because I've lived there. From our conversation, I've been living here for 14 years in Fishtown when Fishtown didn't look the way it does today.
Wow.
Right? So when I came into Fishtown, I literally was the only African American in the neighborhood at the time, but well received. What I didn't understand is so much plight that surrounded the district. I served as the area president for Wells Fargo for the past 15 years since I've been in Philadelphia, but I worked there for 28 years.
Okay.
I started as a part-time teller and then grew in that company. I'll share more about that later. But what I discovered is as I was working with my team, I saw their need and subsequently started saying, well, if it's their need, then it's certainly my community's need. But I was also raised, Tracy, that you take care of home first. And home for me meant that I had to take care of the folks that were working for me. And inside of that private sector were tellers that looked like me, but there were no management positions that had folks that looked like me when I first got over here. So that became important. How do I get more people of color employed in management positions? How do I make sure that they have the earning so that they could feed their families, provide for their children, and then begin to prepare for their own futures? I had mothers, single parents, trying to get to work, dropping off 2 and 3 kids, living off of not an equitable wage. And so I fought for that internally. When I first got over here, they were making $9 an hour. Now some will say, well, that's above what the minimum wage is, but that's not enough to feed you and your kids. When I left, they were making $13 an hour. And that came from making sure that people understood what the need was of the folks that were working for us. You can't feed yourself and your children at $9. It's not even close at $13, but it's a step up.
It's a step up, absolutely.
It's a step up. But those things take time. And within a private sector, most folks think it's easier because you're working for a company to move the dial. It's not that easy to move the dial, but you have to put into place a plan that says, here's why it's important to the people that we're taking care of. Because ultimately, they're taking care of you. Right? They're ultimately going to take care of us. And so in putting together that plan and keep revisiting, even when it was said no, it went from $9 to $10. I'm like, okay, we got $10. How do I get to the next? And building out those benchmarks until we got there. That's exactly what I want to do when I get to Congress. Folks are fighting right now saying I need $15 an hour, and I would agree that there is a dollar amount that's out there for you. There is. But at the same time, I am paying attention that getting that minimum wage doesn't mean that you're going to lose all your benefits. So you can get to $15 an hour, and then they say, well, we're not paying medical, we're not paying dental, we're not going to pay. I am looking to balance that out. Because you need a holistic life. You can't get more income and lose all your benefits because then you net not just zero but negative. So how do I keep that money in play so that your minimum wage goes up but you're not continuously losing on the back end? That's what I'm going to fight for. That's what I'm going to go defend, but primarily with a plan on how to systemically keep companies from dropping other benefits while asking for a steady increase. That's where we create that perfect crossroads that I now have the money I need to live, but I also have the benefits to take care of my family.
Absolutely.
Those are the things. The other reason I'm running is because of education. Now that's the platform. That's the basis and the foundation of why I'm running. I grew up in a house, and I'm gonna do this without getting emotional because we're taping. My grandmother passed last year. She was 105, would have been 106, Tracey. Never got out of the 3rd grade. But she used to say to me, education is the great equalizer. Once you have it, not only can't they take it away from you, but you get to build your own blocks, which means you can build your own house. And that's what we don't have in our community. Sound quality education is the great equalizer. From a national perspective, because I am running for Congress, which is a federal office, which means I'm not handling city issues like city council, state representatives, but I am figuring out across the nation how to take a national budget and then bring resources back locally. Right? So from an educational perspective, while the governor may be handling, and it's a state issue and then it becomes a city issue, there is federal money.
Absolutely.
That can be used. My question is, what are we doing with it today? What are we doing with the 18% that currently comes to Philadelphia, and quite frankly, how do we increase it so that our schools have the tools and the resources, that they're not 40 kids in a classroom, that there are up-to-date books, that there are computers, things that are necessary to ensure that we don't have to have a read by fourth program.
Absolutely.
Right? We have programs to offset the bleeding, but I'm a root cause person. It's time to shut that valve off. And the only way we do that is threefold. One, we need to increase early learning and the budget spent on early learning. The second thing that we need to do is open up the span in high school so that we incorporate, now I'm gonna tell on both of us, Tracey. I remember having woodshop and home ec and other opportunities or vocational opportunities,
Trades.
right? Trades. Exactly. So why aren't we teaching coding and other things to equip our children so that if I decide I'm not going to a 2-year school, a 2-year college, or a 4-year college, I still have earning potential.
This college is not for everyone.
It's not. I got out, but Lord knows it's not for everyone. But that should not determine my ability to take care of me and the family that I want to have. So why aren't we equipping them? So that's the second part, the second phase. How do we get monies brought into our communities so that we can reestablish those programs that were? It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about bringing the old one back and making sure that it runs, right? So that's the second part. The third is, if I do get to college, I should not graduate with a mortgage without owning a home. It should not cost that much.
Absolutely.
I just recently read, and I'm going to do this quick shout out, Senator Vincent Hughes is finding ways and presenting a bill that if I was in Congress, I would find monies to help support. Where 2-year college is free and 4-year college tuition is free. Amazing. Amazing. Just think about how we would continue to be on the cutting edge if we had our children who were able to proceed and not be hindered. Not because I don't have the skill set, but because I don't have the resources. Those are the things that I'm looking for in terms of education. When we make sure that those pieces are in play, that makes us unstoppable. Because now it's not about I might have to address your bias, but now I'm ready for my next level. And that's economic equality. Most folks are looking for job creation. Michelle, we need more jobs. I agree that we need more jobs. And I am going to make sure that there are more jobs brought into our community. I am. However, I don't want just to bring the job. I want to make sure that the pay is equitable at that job. If you have the same skill set, if you're bringing the experience, then we need to address the bias and the disconnect as to why people of color and women don't get paid the same. And that means there's an accountability that needs to be had with the corporations, and I came from one, that says we're going to address these issues. We're not going to overlook them. We're not going to sidestep them, but we're going to address these issues and hold you accountable when we find these disparities. And those things can be done. Now you have to be willing to take up that fight. And I am. And I'm willing to take up that fight because not doing it means that we still have this disconnect and this disparity between the haves and the have-nots. We heard Trump announce in his State of the Union, there's less unemployment than there's ever been in the African American community. Yes, okay, you might have that, not that you attribute it to it, but yes, you can state it to be a fact. But there is no smaller gap between the issues of poverty 40 years ago and today. The wealth gap was 1.85 40 years ago. It's 1.82 today. So if we're not going to do anything to address that, then we still have the issue, and that's why I would be willing to hold anyone responsible and accountable for not having equitable pay, because that keeps people from moving from poverty to prosperity.
Well, it's critical for your voters to understand, once they elect you to Congress, they have to be patient with you, because once you get to Congress, right, everything you're talking about is about a decade away.
Yeah.
So you have to be there for all your terms. The first time is just getting there to see the lay of the land.
Absolutely.
And then the next time you're elected to stay there is when you start executing your plan, because you done already cultivated certain relationships. You know who need to be approached, which one you need to go around, and so forth and so on. By the third term, everything you're talking about should start executing now. And that's what your voters, that's what you call educating your voters onto what your fight is and what you're trying to do, because it's an excellent plan. But most people have microwave syndromes mentality. But here's what I say about a person that has microwave patience. You still gotta wait a minute.
Ooh. I was almost gonna say that'll preach, but you do. You really do have to wait a minute. And I recognize, I say the same thing about folks not having patience. And I appreciate you highlighting that.
Absolutely.
Because we put folks in and we want instant change. There are some things that I'm going to bring instantly. I'm going to make sure that the current offices are now distributed across the district. That wasn't done in the past.
Right.
So there will be outlets. So will you see some immediate things? Absolutely. Am I going to then hold programs that proactively reach out to our community? Absolutely. I do that today. That's why my workshops are free for women. That's why they've been free for small businesses. That's why my coaching and counseling has been free, because I want our communities to advance. So are there things that we can do to turn that dial to prepare you for resources? That will be done immediately.
Well, let me ask you this. Far as running for Congress,
yes.
Whom are you running against?
I am running against a seated, now folks are going to call him an incumbent, but he's a seated Congressman, Brendan Boyle. And the reason he's not an incumbent is because the district realignments. He did not have this district formally.
Okay.
And he is entering his fourth year. Which
he's a Democrat?
He's a Democrat.
Okay.
He is entering his fourth year in serving in that position. What I would say to you is, while I understand he's entering his fourth year and he's had some tenure, what differentiates him from me is that I understand money. I have been steeped in money. While he may have policy, I am clear that it's not just about blue, it's not just about red, it's about green. And I know how to manage a budget. I had a $5 billion budget I was responsible for with 84 lines. I know money.
What's 84 lines?
84 lines of business. That means I had 84 different partners and 84 different responsibilities by which to generate revenue, right? In my last year, I generated $121 million worth of revenue as a result of running a $5 billion business. So it's about understanding, where do we get money, and then how are we deliberately and intentionally distributing that money equitably. That's what I want to do. Given what I have seen across this district, there's not been equitable distribution of these funds.
You can look at the poverty-stricken community. I mean, see, a lot of people, I'm big on humanity, but I'm still from the urban community. So that affects me first before anything outside the malls. So I see poverty in my community. I see where it's empty lots that should be gardens. I literally see that. I see where there's empty buildings and ran down buildings that should be fixed up and giving the people in the community on the corners jobs, fixing them up, and then an opportunity to buy them, live there, and have ownership. Right? I saw the council people in Philadelphia last year, and you know, before the budget, you had money left over, and you have to spend that money, or you can't increase your budget or whatever. And here's what they did. They put on shows and brought in celebrities, disbursed burnt me. Oh, they brought in celebrities.
Yes.
And they flew them in, which wasn't cheap.
Right.
Then they paid them to perform. Then they blocked off streets and stuff, right? And put up stages and had the police out with the cars blocking. You can't turn this way, you can't turn that way, right? As if though the Pope is in town, right? And they brought out the community, the urban community, the one that's in plight and poverty, lack of education, lack of economics, so forth, right? Some even lack of spirituality.
Right.
And they brought them out and they entertained them for 2 to 3 hours. One even entertained them while it was raining and they stood out in the rain. Right? Now, that was just for a day.
Right.
And combined with all the council people budget combined, over $3 million might have been spent.
My word.
Combined.
Wow.
And they did this in front of buildings that was ran down. They did this and entertained mothers that lived in shelters, that could have had them houses fixed up for them to live in. They literally took resources from Philadelphia and gave it to entertainers from other states.
Rather than
shut everything down, take that money, combine it together, and rebuild and invest it into the community. We don't need entertainment. We can go to YouTube.
But that's why I'm running. We have to do something about our priorities. I know most folks read and they hear that I'm retired from Wells Fargo as an executive leader. It's not where I started, right? I grew up in Newark. Until I was 10 years old, I lived on the 18th floor of the Academy Spas on 1st Street. I could look out my window and see the Twin Towers at the time and the Statue of Liberty. Blessed by that because I always saw bigger, so I always wanted bigger. We lived in that apartment, and while we didn't always have access to some of the things that you're talking about, what was clear and made evident is not only can you do better, but you will do better. And I had a village. We don't have a village today. And that village has to be resurrected.
Absolutely.
Has to be resurrected. There was nothing like being able to call on my aunts, my uncles, my neighbors, whomever it was, because even when you went to school back then, teachers had a different accountability.
Absolutely.
And engagement and interaction.
They had a partnership with the mother and fathers at home.
Absolutely. And those are the things that we are lacking now. And there's balance, right? There's balance. Teachers should not become parents because that's why we have parents. But there was an understanding that the child couldn't play games. Mothers and fathers weren't coming to the school talking about, I'm ready to, go at it with the teacher. But that village concept, it's what's causing us not to move ahead. People count on us being splintered, Tracy.
Absolutely.
And there are deliberate and intentional activities that are done to keep us that way.
Right.
$1 today should not turn you away from helping your community, because if they're giving you $1, trust me, it's because they're making 100 times more. It's not $1 more that they're making. They're making 100 times more off of whatever it is that they're giving to you. And so that's when you talk about how resources are spent. While at a federal position, I can't control what's done locally. That's the accountability. I want people to be made capable so that they can take care of their homes. There are programs that are available now that we need to educate our homeowners and our renters on how to get prepared so that you can take care of your home. How to get access to grants to rebuild and revitalize. Small business corridors. There are grants even made available to us. We don't know about all of them, but that's what I would be doing when I said that I would have offices across the district. Those are the things that I want to make available. We have 5 small business offices right now in the state of Pennsylvania. I didn't know that. And neither did any of the small business owners that I talked to, because they're not doing anything. And we're not holding them accountable to make available resources. HUD, there are ways that we can talk and get and leverage what's being done in HUD to help our communities. Those are the things that I want to see done, but it is a mindset. It's a mindset. That means I have to change from wearing Nike to wanting to own Nike.
Exactly.
It means that I have to decide that I want to pull a car up in front of my house
instead
of pulling up a Mercedes in front of my apartment. It's prioritizing. Everything that they're showing us is not meant for us today. What I am teaching and have been teaching on my journey is, because I came from the 18th floor, is what's the difference between a need and nice, right? I learned that from the 18th floor. I needed to eat. It wasn't filet mignon when I was there, because what was also needed that my parents taught me is to own a home. So by 10 years old, they moved out of that apartment and bought the first house. The first and only house, because that's where it is now. But that's what I want to teach them. They had a plan. And sacrifice. That's the other thing I need back in our community. Yes, life can be and will be prosperous, but that doesn't happen without sacrifice. And be willing to understand it may not be your generation.
Right. Absolutely. You're preparing for the next.
You're preparing for the next. The civil rights movement, I wouldn't be where I was if they didn't sacrifice.
Exactly.
So when do we get past me, myself, and I and go back to we, us, and ours?
When you look at it like this in the community, that's why you hear a lot of people call it the hood. The reason they call it the hood is because the neighbors has moved out. So now you just got the people that care about themselves, the selfish part. The village is how to get the neighbors to come back. That's when you bring the old African proverb, the village back. That's how you get it back. You make it livable again for them. You make it where as though you cleaned it up economically and so forth, and where they can say, wow, because see what's happening around now in Philadelphia, of course, they have the 2035 plan. Now the 2035 plan, a lot of people is really not familiar with, but the 2035 plan is literally to move you out and bring in different nationalities in here and let it function that way. That's why you have all the universities, right, building, buying up all these properties, right? Then you see on the poles, we buy houses, but you don't see who buy the houses, because it's gentrification being set up and structured. And here's why I'm upset with the council people, because I don't care who you are, you can't get around this. There's nothing being built in your district without you co-signing it.
That is
because you're the council person for that district. So if something is being built and you didn't co-sign it, then you're supposed to be screaming bloody murder. You're supposed to be have news cameras in front of you saying, this project I did not co-sign. This project is illegal. And if you're not doing none of that, then you're co-signing gentrification.
Most folks, like you talk about, Tracey, are focused on 2035. I had someone introduce me to a book a while ago called How to Kill a City. Gentrification is from 1964.
Right.
It wasn't today. It was so. As much as we're looking at what's going to come, what's happening right now was already a plan. We're just caught up in that.
We just waking up to it.
Yes. So there is an intentional and deliberate plan around why our communities are suffering. And unless we get back involved with reclaiming it and taking it back, and there are steps. So I'm not just talking theory. I know we've said a lot around what I would do. What you need to understand about me is that there are very few things I'm saying I'm going to do where I haven't researched and began taking steps. So I'm not talking in theory or hypothetically.
Right. You understand what you're talking about.
Exactly know.
You got the lay of the land.
Yes. And there are things that can be done to immediately begin preparing folks. The other piece is that when I'm calling on this village, that also means the village of public servants. We have to recognize, and I'm saying we because I intend to get there.
I understand.
No matter if you are state, federal, city, we have to come together and become the village first to take care of those who have elected us.
Absolutely.
We have to say, if this is the outcome, where do we begin? Because if we, and when we make that decision, we become the most powerful force. It's not just faces.
Right.
It's now a power source and a force to be reckoned with.
and your task is to group in the independents and the solos into the we umbrella.
Yeah.
Because see, you have to understand when you're independent and you're doing something strictly for yourself, then you just get the goals of what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
but everybody else is not benefiting from what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And even after you reach all your goals in life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Eventually, it comes a time where you're lonely, and it's lonely at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and you're gonna wish you had someone you can share that with and stuff like that. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about the we syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I get it 1,000%.
Yeah.
The we syndrome is really giving people a verbal mirror to look at themselves and see whom they really represent and what they represent, and come off of your ivory tower, come off of your high horse, and come off of your past experience. You use it as education, but you don't use it as bitterness to keep you from moving forward and helping others and becoming part of something to move forward. So with that being said, I'm going to allow you with the last 5 minutes to let my audience know how they can reach you, how they can literally come and help you, because volunteers is always needed. We
Absolutely.
understand. Of course, you're not going to win anything if you don't have no foot soldiers.
Absolutely.
You got to knock on doors,
Indeed.
right? And especially when it's a blizzard. Why? Because everybody home.
That's it.
You know, and they're going to
That's
recognize that woman sat in my office with her snow boots on, sat in my living room, and she was shaking, and we had to drink coffee and cocoa, and she told me her plan. This is what people don't understand about politics. Politics is not politics. People turn it into politics. But politics is looking at a person or a group of individuals and telling them the truth. I don't know everything I can do, but when I get in there, I will never lie to you.
And that's all I've been committing to this entire time. Every interview, it makes it easier to continue to reiterate who I am and what's my platform, because I don't have to make it up. I have done the work. I have a team. I have subset teams made from the community, so that if I don't know anything or I don't know all of it, I go back to that team to get details and information so that I can bring back the actual resources to you. And I want you to help me and to be a part of those teams and a part of this campaign to recreate this village. That's at MicheleForCongress.com. Michele, Michele, forcongress.com. I'm on Facebook at MicheleForCongress.com. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, Michele for me, on Instagram and Twitter. Please, if you are looking to volunteer, there's a volunteer Dropbox on my website. If you are looking to work with us and you need a job, 1027 Ridge Avenue in Philadelphia, we want you. This is about reclaiming our community. I do want to spend 2 seconds saying.
How can they donate though to your?
By all means. So we need foot soldiers and we need money. Thank you, Tracy.
Absolutely.
I don't know how the money person forgot to ask for money. We absolutely need every dollar counts, and I make every dollar count. I don't spend your money frivolously or foolishly, because I recognize it's a seed that you're sowing into me, and I'm sowing it right back into this community. So it's at Blue on the website, MicheleForCongress.com. There's a drop-down box to donate. There is a donate button on my Facebook page. You can donate big, small. We take everything and all things because you are deciding that I am the public servant for you. So please, please, even today, do so. You can call me. Yes, please call the office at 215-510-8338. We will definitely get back to you. We need you. It is time for us to take back our communities, not just with passion, but with a plan. And people, I have a plan that includes you, not excludes you. I have a plan that I'll sit around tables that include folks like Tracey and others, because I don't know it all. But I do want to accomplish what I set out to do. And that's not for me, but for you. We need to give back to us, our, and we, and a lot less of me, myself, and I. There will be promises made. I need you to see past the foolishness. And I need you to understand that they are not going to deliver Because if they were, they would have already. They would have already. You can look me up. I have done the work. That's why my platform is Service, Opportunities, and Sound Solutions. I've done the work without the title of being the Congresswoman. I found opportunities to bring more resources, both in the private sector and in community. And I built Sound Solutions so that even when I'm not there anymore, those things are already still in play. The district sent up this SOS and I'm answering it because I care, I'm competent, I have the capacity, and I'm capable. Tracey, thank you so much for this time and for your listeners. I appreciate and applaud you. And you also need to know the work won't stop even if I don't get there. What they don't realize is we celebrated Martin Luther King yesterday and he had a mountaintop experience.
Absolutely.
Once you see the need, I can't turn a blind eye to it. So the work is going to be done. It will be easier in the seat, but I will be working even if I don't get the seat. But I'm counting on you to support me. I need you to support me.
And there you have it. You have Congress candidate Michele Lawrence running, and I believe in her, and I'm quite sure the audience as well. I'm Tracey L. Fisher. This is a Reentry Point of View. Thank you for coming.